Hey everyone, and welcome to the show. I'm James, that's Katie, and that makes this the first ever episode 27 of Cloud Control. You're almost done moving your back at my house one more time. I'm finally through with having you leeching off of me in this place.
Wow, that's the best part about you saying that is literally on my way over I was like, oh man, I sure hope there's coffee when I get there. And guess what, there was.
Yeah, because my rubber arm had to be twisted into making some more. Not so hard to convince me. Hi Kate, welcome to the show. You know what's so funny, the other day when you texted me, you're like, Summer Game Fest is this week. And then I kind of looked at that text and I was like, oh yeah, it kind of just snuck up really fast this year.
Yeah, I haven't seen anyone talking about it, and then it just kind of like hit me that it should be coming up soon, because actually what's funny is I booked a tattoo and I was like, oh, what am I going to do while I'm hanging out of my tattoo? And I was like, and then it clicked, I was like, hang on, isn't there going to be like cool video game stuff to watch? And then I was like, holy shit, Summer Game Fest is like 4 days and it's coming very soon.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy actually. I think for me it was because the Stars were in the playoffs so late, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I've been so obsessed watching all the hockey stuff going on, and then it's like usually the Stars are kicked out and I can focus on gaming, right? But this year it's been a little different. But we're here now, and we're going to be talking about Summer Game Fest on the show today, everybody, in case you didn't figure that one out. So welcome to the show, everyone. Of course, this is Cloud Control, and today we're going to talk about Summer Game Fest. I've been playing Descenders, and then later on to finish the show, our last topic is Yellowjackets, because Kate and I just finished watching season 2, and we'll talk about the show just generally and let everyone know why it's the best show on TV right now, in my opinion. I think you agree. But yeah, and then listener mail, of course, to close out the show, as always. So let's get right into our predictions, although we're not actually starting with Summer Game Fest. I told a little lie, because we actually did another set of predictions on a previous show for the PlayStation Showcase. And so Kate and I, for those of you who did not listen to that episode, made a little bet. And so instead of making our own predictions, what we did is we went onto a little website called Push Square, a great little PlayStation site, and where they had made some predictions. And Kate and I kind of went through what they had said, and we both made a guess of, out of their predictions, which ones were most likely to come true. And it turns out I don't think anyone's predictions were really true, because that showcase was not at all, full of some of the things that were anticipated to be there. So
yeah, that episode, looking back on it, is a lot of like, well, this is obviously going to be there, like these are great predictions. And of course stuff like, Wolverine wasn't there, Sobo didn't show up, Factions wasn't there, we didn't get our daily check-in at Super Hot. Like, it was just a lot of stuff that seemed very plausible and didn't come true. So out of the 7 predictions we made, we ended up with a score of 1 point for James and
yes.
2 points for me.
Pretty bad.
So we both correctly identified that Final Fantasy 16 would be there.
It's like the lowest hanging fruit, though,
Yeah, absolutely. That's like basically saying, oh man, I really think they're going to show the PlayStation logo. Like, I really bet.
I bet you the color scheme will be blue.
Yeah, so that was kind of a freebie. And then I picked up a 2nd point for guessing. And to be fair, this is kind of a low one too, because it was like the most vague prediction that was made, in that just an indie game, not a specific one, but just an indie game would like be the star of the show. And we debated whether or not that happened, but then I pointed out that the Plucky Squire actually was the best game at the showcase, and so I think I've eked out a point on that.
It's inarguable. Like, the Plucky Squire just looks so good, even if it didn't necessarily steal the show. It stole the show for us, I think. Well, Spider-Man obviously too, but
at the very least we could say that's a half point, and that's still
definitely
a victory.
That's still a victory for you.
So as per terms of the bet, James will now be buying a game under $2.
No, $3.
Under
you said
$3? Okay. Get a little extra quality then. Under $3, and you must play it to talk about on an upcoming future show.
Yeah, that's the plan. I think it should be $3 before tax, just a little bit more wiggle room, to get some more quality in there.
And that counts if it's on sale. It doesn't have to be $3 like normal price. Like, you could potentially like win yourself a $5 game.
That's what I'm gonna try.
That's
what I'm gonna try.
I really hope that you succeed. And I can't. Do not tell me ahead of time what you play.
Yeah.
I just want you to bring it one day.
Folks, sometimes what you got to do is you got to wait until you see, like, sometimes really good old games go on sale. Like Dishonored, you can find for like $379, you know, sometimes on Steam. I just need something a little worse than Dishonored to go on sale for like $279, and then I'll have a fine time. But next episode, I will bring whatever this game is to it. Actually, I think that's the rule, right? It's got to be the next episode. Otherwise, it'll be delayed and we'll forget. Like, this is the rule.
Yeah, exactly. And that way, too, like, there's no pressure. Like, you can sit and wait for a sale forever. Like, this is like, okay, you really got to make the best of the situation.
You got to make the best of it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fun. And we're going to try and do something similar here now for my chance at retribution. Because, you know, this is probably going to suck. And I want you to feel how bad it goes. So, we're going to do some Summer Game Fest predictions as well. Similar format, but just a little bit different because they've announced a huge list of partners for Summer Game Fest this year. We're going to go through some of the bigger studios and make a prediction of what game we might see from them, who can get more of those right. But, you know, before we get into that list, like you're pretty excited for this, right? Like, what's the dream scenario? What's the number one thing you'd love to see released? I just want to talk about that for a second.
Man, okay, so this is funny. We said, we didn't talk about this ahead of time. You're like, oh, do you want a minute to think? I was like, no. My dream game is that Sekiro 2 gets announced. It's never, like, I am under the impression, like, 0% chance it's going to happen. But if any game could ever get announced, it's Sekiro 2.
Development alongside Armored Core.
And the Elden Ring DLC. Yeah, that's right. Well, we know how much Jeff loves From Software, so,
yeah.
You never know.
What about realistically?
My realistic game is I really want to see Housemarque show up. They didn't show up at the PlayStation Showcase, but I think, Jeff's buddies with some PlayStation studios, and I really, really want to see what comes after Returnal, because if you go back to our top 25 episodes, Returnal placed extremely high on my list.
That's a good call. It'd be really cool to see that. I would be like, why was that not at the showcase? You know, they really could have used it, but maybe because it's here. Who knows? For me, it's Persona 6.
Yeah.
Especially because, like, it's a little different than Sekiro as well, because we know Persona 6 is for sure happening, and it's just kind of like that waiting game.
Right.
It's not going to be this year. Like, there's almost like no evidence of that, but there's a chance, right? We might see something.
I hope so much, and I'm sticking by my prediction that it's purple. Purple
is
the color
green,
scheme.
And I said green. So.
I said purple. So little bonus point if that happens.
Definitely, but realistically for me, I'm going even smaller beans. For me, it's perfect. We just saw Plucky Squire, no release date. They're gonna show it again here. The realistic thing I want is just a release date for that game.
Yeah, that is like. Honestly, like, the two games I have right now that are, like, day one pre-order purchase are Silk Song, whenever that happens, and Plucky Squire. Like, I'm so pumped for this game.
You forgot one, though. Hades 2.
Oh, and Hades 2. Yeah, obviously. Clearly. Hades 2.
Right. Well, with that lovely discussion, we will start with our predictions, I guess. Okay. Now, would you like the honor of going first or second? Because I think what we should do with this one is no duplicate predictions.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? Because last time we both got a Final Fantasy 16 point. Some of these are more obvious than others. I think we should alternate. Okay,
then I will go first because I think my first one's my shittiest prediction, and so therefore I have to make sure that,
sounds good. Go ahead.
I hold it. So our first studio is Capcom, and I say we're gonna get some Street Fighter 6 character reveals. Ooh. So the PlayStation gave us another story trailer, but these fighting games, they always have so many iterations of check out this new character, and then all of a sudden Guile's here now, and so I think we're gonna get a character trailer from Street Fighter 6.
Okay. Well, I had them written down. I wrote down 2 because I thought that was a good one.
I wrote down 1 because I like to play dangerously.
Yeah, very nice. Street Fighter 6 looks so good, by the way. I'm kind of wanting to try it.
Have you seen the character mode?
No.
Oh my god, I've just been looking at the character mode. Someone made
what do you mean character mode?
Well, they have the character creation, and it's just so outrageous what you can do with the sliders. Someone made Smo from Dark Souls, and he's got this tiny little head and this massive belly. Oh, that's the best part of the game so far.
For me, I'm just going to go with Devil May Cry then. Yeah. I've seen some rumors about that. I think interestingly too, the Final Fantasy 16 has some connections to the combat there. So there could be hey, if you like this, play this Devil May Cry game coming out next year. That would make some sense. So we'll go there. So next on our list, Disney, and I guess I'll go first with this one. You know what? I went with a lot of realistic predictions for this because I want to win. However... Last time we got proven that realistic is not always the way to go. So for this one, because it just came to Xbox Games with Gold, everyone's bringing back pod racing. We're going to see a new Star Wars pod racer game from Disney. because they own
That
Star
is
Wars now.
awesome. That would be super fun.
Be perfect for Game Pass, right? Imagine that everyone's got it. There's
Yeah.
online racing, like, but it's free because it's on Game Pass. You're pod racing all around. You're putting different parts in your pods.
You know what? It's the perfect timing too. We all just got the pod racer emote in Fortnite.
Exactly.
Like, it's
you can see it happening, right?
I totally can. Okay, I like your prediction more, but I'm glad you didn't say that new like Marvel game that they're working on that's got like the 4 characters. I think we'll see that. Mostly because I was like, what the hell does Disney even make? But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
They just own a bunch of stuff.
My other prediction was going to be Dreamlight Valley DLC, like that Animal Crossing-ish kind of game. But yeah. All right.
That's actually kind of cute. Okay, so moving on from Disney, our next one is Square. And my hope is that we get to see what kind of thing we can kill next, because we killed Chaos last year and that was super badass. But I think this year I went with a safer pick and said Dying Light 2. I know that's a big game coming up and a lot of people are excited for it.
Okay. Square, I mean, Final Fantasy 16 is obvious, right?
I know, but I didn't
I'm not
going
gonna
to
do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go just because my heart tells me to say it. We saw an article mentioning Final Fantasy Tactics Remastered. I didn't know that was even in the realm of conversation, but I'm just going to say it because, sending out my hope into the world.
Best Final Fantasy game ever made. Let's go. Now, here's just a little tangent point. If Final Fantasy 16 shows up again, is it officially a Deathloop game? Because we have seen it many times.
I think it's the first winner of the Deathloop Award if it shows up.
I think so.
For those that don't know, the Deathloop Award, you can figure that one out, I guess, if you watch these showcases with any regularity. It's a game you see all the time.
Maybe too much.
And it doesn't mean it's a bad game. It doesn't mean we're not looking forward to it. It just means we've seen it too much. And it can, simmer down and come out. Okay. What's next? We got Sega next. You know what? I'm going to keep this one simple. I think it's going to be Sonic DLC. Because that game apparently has a big DLC plan. And, it's better than I think people thought. So why not support it?
Yeah, okay. Love for Sonic. I considered that. And then I went on the Yakuza train. Because there's that Like a Gaiden game supposedly coming out. So I think we'll see more of that. So
they're dividing Yakuza and Like a Dragon into 2 separate streams now. So do you think it's going to be Yakuza or is it going to be Like a Dragon?
I think it's going to be Like a Dragon.
Okay.
I think it's going to be Like a Dragon. That might have just lost me the point.
Okay, we'll see.
Okay, so moving on. This, I think, is the funniest but safest prediction I've made, is that it's the Ubisoft, and Just Dance is happening. Like, you cannot have a showcase without, like, people, like, pandas in costumes, and, like, people in panda costumes, not pandas in costumes. That would be way better.
Hey, Just Dance is crazy. It could be either way.
But they come out, they're always dancing. It's always, like, midway through the show, there's been a bit of a lull, and then, like, the music starts going, and everybody wakes up. It's awesome.
You know what? Every year is like the year Will Just Dance cease to arrive at these showcases, and it's always just there.
If it ever does, that is the end of times.
Just Dance, if it shows up this year, will have outlasted E3. Because E3 is officially canceled this year.
Yeah, that's right.
Will Just Dance die with E3, or will it continue?
It's coming.
You say it continues?
I think so.
All right, I'm just going to go with Avatar for Ubisoft. That's apparently coming out relatively soon, and I don't think we've really seen anywhere near enough, considering how, large Avatar is as an enterprise, I guess you call it. So, yeah, Avatar. And next after that will be EA, if I'm reading the list correctly. Now EA, interesting one. I'm gonna go with Skate because I think they had mentioned that a few years ago, and people like skateboarding. Right, Kate?
No, people hate skateboarding. Actually,
can you tell why I picked skate?
I don't know why you thought people would like that. This is fake news to me. I'm going to something way cooler than skateboarding, and that is Magic. I'm going to say we're going to get more of that Mortals of Avenom game, which I guess now I think about it, we did see at the PlayStation Showcase. But then again, you can never discount a Deathloop game from showing up. Yeah,
and it's not bound to be, only at one as well.
So I think we'll see that. It looks kind of cool. It's like a first-person magic shooter is what they're calling it. Some interesting fantasy design. We'll see. Moving on, we've got Warner Bros. And they have this weird Quidditch game apparently they're making. I don't know if it's tied to Hogwarts Legacy or if it's going to be a standalone thing. But apparently there's a Quidditch game. So, maybe.
Well, hopefully it's more fun than Hogwarts Legacy. Well, for me, this is probably the one I'm the most confident in.
Okay.
Or one of the most confident. I'm going to say Mortal Kombat, the new reboot. That's pretty clear, I think. for me.
Those are the two most polar opposite guests. We're either getting Mortal Kombat or Quidditch.
They should put Scorpion in the Quidditch game as a guest character.
Oh, he'd be so good. He could like grab the ball and like pull it to him. He'd be a chaser. He'd like pull the balls.
Or just grab the snitch.
Yeah,
that's
that's
grab
a
people's
tough catch,
brooms out from under them and.
Crossover, please, Warner Bros. Please.
Indie studio. Which indie will show up? Which indie game do we think will arrive? I have 2 written down. I just don't know. I'm gonna double down Plucky Squire.
Mm-hmm.
I think it actually will show again, just because it is supposed to come out this year. Why not show it again, right?
If you get a point for that, I'm more than happy because I want to see more Plucky Squire. Now, I went back to what I mentioned earlier, that Jeff loves Souls games. And what is the indie Souls game that everybody is just dying to see more of? Well,
but that's delayed.
No. It's not Silksong. It is from a little studio called Aggro Crab, and that is another Crab's Treasure. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
It's like the Souls game, but you're like a little like hermit crab. It looks incredible, and we haven't seen any more since the original trailer. So I think this is where Jeff's gonna lose his mind, and it's gonna be like an Elden Ring reveal all over again. But this time it's crab time.
So once the crab is on stage for Just Dance, the crab can come back out again.
That's right.
For this game.
That's right.
It'll be perfect.
Exactly.
Okay. So the last 2 predictions we have here, PlayStation and Xbox are both on the list of partners. So instead of predicting a single game, we just thought we would say which of their studios we think are most likely to show up. And so it's your turn first, I think, actually. Right?
Yes. So for PlayStation Studios, I doubled down and said Housemarque. Please, just Housemarque. Anything. I just want to see it.
Okay. Safe pick here is probably Insomniac, right, for Spider-Man, but I'm going to go off the board. There was a lot of rumors about Sony Bend before, and you know what? Why not try for something different? So I'll say Sony Bend. Mm-hmm. And they're also, like, not quite the cream of the crop, you know? Like, they probably would be okay with them being in not a PlayStation thing rather than, like, Insomniac or Naughty Dog or one
Right,
of the
might be a slightly
top
smaller
ones. Yeah,
studio.
you never know. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And lastly, that brings us to Xbox. Who just has so many studios now under their control. I mean, where do you go? But there's just so many studios where you're like, they should announce something and they just haven't. I'm going to say it's going to be Machine Games, though, because for those that remember, this is the Wolfenstein studio, but they're working on Indiana Jones. And there's been some new Indiana Jones trailers. That would be nice timing, I think, for the new movie and the game to line up.
That's smart. I didn't think about that. But it's weird they're making an Indiana Jones.
It is weird. Like, I mean, it's been a long time since we've seen it. Like, it could be completely different now or canceled or what. I don't know, but it just kind of makes sense. Okay.
Well, my final guess is I went with Tango Studios because they just recently put out Hi-Fi Rush. I believe they did Ghostwire Tokyo before that. Mm-hmm. And so we don't know what they're working on next, but they keep coming up with like new and creative ideas. So I'm hoping they show up, and bonus points, they have one of the best logos. It's a tiny little snail and I love it.
That is cool. All right, well, good luck. Mm-hmm. Good luck. I truly hope that this time, regardless of who wins, that we at least see some more of these predictions come to the forefront instead of just, being wrong about everything. Oh, man. All right, well, let me tell you about a little game I've been playing. Let me tell you a story, because last week on the podcast, well, last week we didn't do a podcast. The last one we released, I said I was going to have beaten Ori by then and talk about it on the show. And I've lied to you all, I will confess. Ori was longer than I thought, and I've been distracted with all the side stuff. So you might say on the screen, James, that's not Ori. And I would say, dear listener, no, it's not. This is actually Descenders.
Really? I was believing it. I was lost for a second.
This is not Ori. This is Chad on his bike here.
Chad.
And so
Chad number 96 over here.
Yeah. So this is Descenders, and this is a game that I got off PS Plus, and I thought, I'll play a little bit of this and talk about it on the show in place of my Ori segment. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I'm actually way more impressed with this than I thought. And let me just say thank you for the YouTube video, Just Gameplay, borrowing your footage here. Mm-hmm. Let us know if you have a problem. We can take it down. We'll talk about it. Okay, so this game is cool. It's like, you're looking at the gameplay here. You're literally just riding a motorbike or a mountain bike, down some dirt trails, doing ramps, all the good bike stuff, right? You're jumping, you're spinning, you're doing all your tricks. Mm-hmm. But this game has a lot more to it than I initially thought. And I think, aside from Trials, which I really love and I think is a great game, this is probably my favorite sort of extreme sports game. And that's,
Is that counting Snowboard Kids?
Is that an extreme sports game?
I would say snowboarding is pretty extreme.
Then maybe it's third place. Maybe it's third place.
Okay, just checking.
But the cool thing about this game that I did not know going in is it's actually a roguelike, which is a really weird thing to cross with like one of these, sports games usually don't have those kind of mechanics.
Sorry, it's just turning so sharply in the video.
Yeah, so let me just say, like, gameplay wise, I think it's pretty standard. Like, not like I play a lot of these motocross type of things, but like, you're doing your flips. It feels like it should. Mm-hmm. Sometimes landing's a little weird. You feel like, oh, I probably should have landed that, or like it's not very lenient, but whatever. It feels fine. There's a real sense of speed, though, is the thing that I want to point out about the gameplay. Like when you get going on these straightaways and like the controller's vibrating, it kind of feels like a bike chain, how it has that kind of like feeling to it. I don't know how to describe it. Like if you've ridden a bike, you know that like what that is. And you have the speedometer kind of on the bottom of your corner. You get up some pretty big speeds and there's ramps and, little vibration and stuff. Like you really do feel the speed. But like with the roguelike, it's actually pretty cool. So this game is actually procedurally generated maps. And what happens is I played the career mode. You do like a run. There's 4 environments. You start on the 4th. And you start on this map and there's like, you go down the track and then as you beat the levels, you get different nodes that unlock on the map. And so you're kind of progressing and like choosing which path you want to take through the environment to make it to the end. And the way that it kind of goes is like you go on these runs, it's in the forest, you're going through the map, and then so you have like a health bar that lasts for your whole run. And the more times you fall off your bike, you take damage, and then your run will end if you don't make it. Like almost like your day is over if you fall too many times in real life and you're like, oh, you know what, I'm just done. Like I can't ride anymore, right? So you're really incentivized to like try not to fall on some of the levels. And then that's contrasted with every time you're also given an objective. So it'll be like, oh, on this level, do 2 flips or like nearly miss something and go by really close by. And if you complete those, you actually gain health back on your health bar. So you're kind of like trying to do some dangerous stuff, but you don't want to mess it up and then lose health instead of trying to gain it. So it's kind of like a back and forth on there. You're also like gaining points, and you can also, once you kind of fill up your experience bar, it's that green circle in the top. It's quite small, but when you fill that up, you can get like crew members that will join you on your run. So you can choose like, which of these 4 friends do you want to join you, and they'll give you different bonuses. Like now your jump goes higher, or it'll generate like slightly more steep ramps. So you're like, oh, I can go faster now on these ramps. Right. That's kind of what I'm looking to do. So you can pick that and kind of get different combinations, build them together. Like if you get the steep ramps and the jumping, you can get a lot more height and do like bigger spins and stuff like that. So pretty cool the way that it kind of goes out. There's also like boss challenges. That castle, for anyone watching that you saw someone go over, that was like considered a boss jump. So you're like going off a jump right here coming up. Actually, you're going like up this ramp. You got to land like on the turret of the castle, and there's another jump like coming up over here, which is pretty cool. Like it's unique. But the one thing I will say is I've only played like you can get trapped.
He's totally trapped in the turret now. Oh my god!
Holy shit, that was pretty cool.
Okay, this game's cool.
Yeah, it's cool, but the one thing I will say is like after playing an hour, you can definitely see like some duplicate things be generated in.
Right.
Like that castle turret was very cool the first time that I saw it, and I thought like, oh, it's a boss jump. Like that's cool. I got an achievement for like completing it, stuff like that. But then I played like 2 more runs and I ran into it again. So it's like I don't know how much variety is there. It might be that I've also never beaten the first area, so maybe you get like more parts kind of as you go. But I just thought the presentation was a lot cooler than a lot of these other games that are kind of just you're getting a high score doing your tricks kind of thing. But there's more to it, and you can, certain of the nodes on the map as well are like sponsored runs. So like if you do enough of those, there's 3 different sponsors in the game, and you can like sign with them in your career. So I don't know if that'll progress like your character in some way or something like that. But I think there's a lot to dig into here. For someone who's like really into these style of games. Like I think it would be a really refreshing, I could imagine someone talking about this being like, this is a really refreshing take on these games that I really like.
Right.
Because in a similar way, like we would say that about different genres like creature catching where we played so many of them. Like I really think this could be cool for someone, who likes to play these.
This definitely seems like it's got a little bit more to it than a lot of them, and like maybe those other ones are just so good mechanically, so like there's reason to pick it over this. But this to me at least just seems like, from my limited perspective on these games, that there's a bit more going on it, like maybe a bit more extrinsic motivation, like the idea of like there being kind of a roguelike progression, or you kind of unlock stuff as you go would maybe make me more motivated to play.
Yeah, I mean the unlocks aren't, that's the one thing, is like more of a roguelike than a roguelite, because you don't really unlock like you don't really progress your racer, right? Like at the end of the run, you'll unlock kind of like a new shirt or like a new pair of shorts or something, or a new helmet design.
Like, that fashion's important, okay?
Well,
you gotta, like, the right helmet will make you go faster.
It's true. But yeah, and the other thing that's, I guess I'll mention about the game that I appreciated was like, you see people's ghosts as well, like on the track. So as you're playing, you can kind of watch what others are doing. And it's a little disorienting because at first I was trying to avoid them. Like I didn't want to crash into them, but obviously you can't. But it's cool because the game will give you like gameplay tips as you're going into each stage, and it'll say things like, take the level at your own pace. It's not a race. You can play however you want, because it's realistically, it's not a race. Like you might want to try and be careful, or maybe you're trying to really, hit all the jumps and do certain tricks. Like you might have a different objective you're trying to complete. So it's kind of cool, like how they give you that sense of like other people are on this track. And I think that's kind of like something that people might appreciate, because I don't think you'd ever really be here by yourself in real life, It'd be cool in Tiger Woods PGA if there's like other people teeing off on like the course beside you. Like it just adds to that realism.
I love that feature in games. Like it's always like such a Souls thing. I was like, you can play offline, but if you play online, when you see other people, especially when they sit down at the fire beside you, like I just love that kind of like extra little bit of community aspect to a game.
Yeah, and you can see like, oh, that guy just landed, whatever trick. Like I didn't know I could get like that much air off. I'm sure there's people that have that experience, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, cool game. I don't have much more to say about it. I don't think I'll play a whole lot more.
I have one more thing to say about it, is that James, I am telling you must post that clip you showed me on Twitter, and everyone, you must go watch it, because he showed me one of the single funniest clips I've ever seen from a game of him just like bailing at the end of one of these races.
Yeah, so just to explain it in case you didn't go watch, like there's one like steering thing you can do with the right stick, and it kind of like kicks out the back tire of your bike like a drift, like a different way to turn. And it's kind of hard to control. I'm sure you can get better at it, but like I was just experimenting, and I did it like I was gonna drift across the finish line, and there's like these two big metal bars on either side of it, and I just did this drift and like annihilated my character into the bar like so bad. And just the way he like flies off the bike and lays on the ground after,
it happens so quickly.
Very funny, very abrupt, like out of nowhere.
This
is gold. I'll post it for sure.
You must.
So that's the Senders, and I guess that brings us to the most exciting part. For me, the most exciting part of today's show, because we've been watching the greatest show on TV at the moment, Yellowjackets. Season 2 just completed. I don't think we talked about Yellowjackets on the show at all before.
I think you talked about it when you were watching season 1, and before I had watched season 1.
Yes, okay. So that's a long time ago now, because of course we both finished both seasons of the show. Look, for those that have never heard of it, I guess the quick recap is this is the show. I think it's based on true events, right? But it's not.
I think it's
totally
inspired.
It's inspired, right?
Inspired.
But it's about a girls' soccer team that's going to a competition and crash lands in this forest. And it's kind of a split story. 50% of the show takes place like from the crash and like how these girls survive in the forest. There's like creepy shit that happens. And then the other half of the show takes place in current day, which is like what happens to those that make it out of the wilderness situation, and like how they're all fucked up in their lives and
I
what
think
goes
they're
on.
like in their mid-40s or something, so there's quite a time jump. Like they've been rescued and back for quite some time. I think it's 12 months they spend in the woods. That's not a spoiler. It's something that's established pretty early. Because it's less about like, will they get rescued? It's more about just like what happens when they're there and how that has affected them in the rest of their lives. Because let me tell you, these girls they've been through some shit, and they are not functioning well as adults.
Yeah, and I think what's like the most impressive thing about this show to me, anyway, there's a lot of things that I like, but what I like about it is how well they tie together both of the timelines. Like it really feels like you're getting to know a singular character across both timelines, and like, Shauna wouldn't do that, but you know her from like two perspectives, but they're very consistent, and you can see how their relationships of like the future ones are really just evolved forms of like the relationship they've built as the kids. And I think it's just really believable the way, like, I really believe that this person would have grown up this way and been affected in this way, and like based on their personality and their actions as a kid. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is very internally consistent that way. And Yeah, they're impressive too. Just the actors, especially with season 2, I've noticed they've picked up a lot of their mannerisms. So, like, especially with a lot of the younger actors, they kind of will, like, walk the same way or, like, have certain, like, speech cues that the adult version has that they, like, you know, things like you do maintain throughout your life.
Yeah. Something to mention about the second season as well. Elijah Wood makes a cameo appearance and plays maybe one of the greatest characters on TV for the last little while.
Yes.
I don't know how you describe him. He's just very eccentric and like this home detective.
Very eccentric. He's like a billionaire who wears socks and sandals, and he's like a huge dork, but he's like a citizen detective, so he like goes on the Reddit equivalent and like tries to solve like cases that were closed by the police and never like finished, and it's fantastic.
He's literally like Batman, but in a world where there's no villains or superheroes.
Yeah.
So he's just a rich guy who solves crimes.
But he's not broody. He's like dork version of Batman in like a normal world.
Yeah. So you had really interesting news about the show that came out today, actually.
So I think it's funny because I think season 2 kind of ended on like a big bang, but apparently there is going to be a bonus episode that comes out between seasons 2 and 3,
okay.
which is very exciting. But it's definitely one of those shows where for every kind of like thread that gets tied up, there's 2 more threads that are opened. And it doesn't really feel like there's tons of safety. Like, I would say if, like, the obvious elephant in the room comparison is Lost, because it's like plane crashes, people stranded, what happens? I would say Lost is the like mystery sci-fi show, and Yellowjackets is the horror mystery show.
Yeah. So I think what I'd like to do just before we end the little Yellowjackets discussion here and have a nice crisp shorter episode of the show. We've had a couple long ones recently. Hey? I want to go into a little bit of spoilers. Okay. So if you've not watched Yellowjackets, I would say thank you for listening and check us out on the next episode.
But go watch it, but caveat, do not eat anything while you're watching this show because you won't finish it.
Yeah, that's for sure. But thank you for watching. For those of you that have watched Yellowjackets, I want to talk to you about this extra hour that's coming out here because, couple weeks ago, the second season ended. This is your last chance to get out. 3, 2, 1. And so, like, a lot of shit happened, and our girl died. What's her name?
Natalie.
Natalie died.
Oh my God, she was my favorite character.
And they burned the cabin down, in the forest. And so, like, they've left a lot of these things kind of going on. But what do you think they're going to show in this hour in between seasons 2 and 3? Like, what's your knee-jerk reaction, Because I've been thinking about this since you texted me that this morning. Like, what could it be?
I don't know. It's crazy because I think there's 2 ways they can go. I think they're either going to drop some like crazy shit on us, like it's going to be a massive revelation, or it's going to be something that's not super impactful. It's just like some bonus stuff, like maybe Natalie funeral could potentially be kind of the focus of the episode. So I think it's either going to be kind of like a quiet, somber episode, or it's going to be like some shit's going to go on in the woods. They're going to leave the cabin. There's going to be another thing that seems maybe like it's like a mythical force, or maybe they're just all still hallucinating.
That's interesting. Yeah. So I had 2 thoughts about it, and they were completely different than what you had.
Okay.
So what I thought, which would be pretty interesting, would be if it was like an episode focusing on like Lottie and Van specifically, because we didn't get to see as much any of them in season 1.
Okay.
Like showing so like kind of an episode to catch us up on like what exactly they've been doing since they got back. But then I thought, like, why not take it a step further? And I thought, well, it's kind of weird to do an episode like in between seasons, like it's almost like why would you do that? And so the one reason I thought was that, okay, they want to set something up to entice you for the 3rd season, right? But it would have to be some kind of information that wasn't given, like to do like a storyline that almost wasn't includable in the 2nd season, but they still want to set you up for something in the 3rd season. So that makes me think, I think there's going to be one more person that survived, and is going to be a 1 hour focused on exactly what they've been up to.
Oh, so like a dark horse.
Like a dark horse survivor.
So who would that be?
Well, my bet would be Coach.
Coach, yeah.
I think Coach is going to survive. I think he had his run-in with death. Like he nearly did it. jumping off the mountain. But I think it's going to be an episode on Coach, like how he survives in that cave, away from the cannibalistic tribe of 19-year-olds or whatever. And then he's going to come back, and we're going to have an older Coach, because we don't yet have anyone in like the, their... I don't even know how old Coach is, but I guess he'd be like middle-aged now.
I think he's like...
in his 60s maybe, late 50s or something by this time.
Yeah, I don't think he was like... I think he was like in his 20s when they crashed, so... Well,
wherever he is, I think we'll see Coach in present day as well.
That's awesome. I think Coach seems like if there's one more character out there, because they did like the body reveal and then they did the van reveal, and I don't think you can do too many more. Yeah. Like there's another girl
and there's not that many more that would be worth it. Like they're not going to bring the pink hat girl back. No, or like Rat Girl doesn't deserve to be alive after keeping that carcass around.
God.
Oh my God.
That was such a crazy moment.
No, I take that back completely. I feel so bad for her.
Yeah, poor Rat Girl. Yeah. Not only are you starving, but your pet rat
is crazy.
Oh God.
They're all lost it though. But who do you think? Like, what, if I was right?
I think the only character they can, in a satisfying way, bring back is Coach, and it makes sense too because he's a bit older than them. So like when they got rescued, they're all gonna go back to living with their parents or whatever situation they were in before. But Coach is a bit older. Like he could get back and just presumably like move across the continent,
I live in Bermuda
right? Like,
now, and I'm just chilling.
He's just like fucking gone, right? Like if that was me, you'd get back and be like, nope, fresh start somewhere else. Maybe somewhere I can drive to, not fly, but like he's gone, right? And they wouldn't really be in touch with him as much as the other girls. He's not really part of their tribe so much, so it makes sense that they would be like less connected to him, but he could come back in some kind of
I think that makes I think that makes sense, right? That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Especially after that last episode where he burned the cabin down. Like he's almost like a force in opposition to them, right? At this point.
The other idea that I had, because you can tell I've been thinking about this, is another kind of flashback, like standalone episode would be 1 hour on what happened in the forest before they landed. Where did that original plane come from that Laura Lee tried to fly? And who built the cabin? So, and like where the symbols came from, like give us an hour on, like if it introduces some character we've never seen before.
Yeah. Like cabin guy, like the dead body at the top of the cabin.
Tell us his story in 1 hour.
I would love to see that because we still don't know what the symbol means, right?
Like maybe that's what it is. A little bit of like a backstory episode to kind of catch us up on some of this stuff and like where the origin is. Because the cabin's gone now too, right? So maybe it's like now we can see where it came from.
Yeah, that's right. And how realistically, when would that come up again now that they're going to be moving away from the cabin?
Right.
I actually, of all the guesses, I hope that's the case. I'm most interested to know the cabin backstory. Yeah,
that's true. And I guess also, like, if they were to have one character extra survive, they could open the next season with that. And it would still be like, a shock to see, like, Coach survived. But then it would be weird to have, like, go back to the cabin. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, who knows? But it would make sense to me as someone that doesn't write or work in TV in any way.
And who doesn't know like what's gonna happen in the next few seasons, right? Like maybe going back to the cabin makes so much sense with some clarity in season 4, but like we have no clue. So I like that prediction the most. So I hope that's true.
Anything else on Yellowjackets before we head on to listener mail?
Man, it's just so good. I think Shauna's baby was the best episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just been like an absolute trip. I love Yellowjackets. I don't know if it's objectively a good show is the thing. Like, I think it really depends on how it ends. Because, like, I feel like if it's not a satisfying ending, a lot of these threads could be like, oh, they went nowhere. And it could kind of have a bit of a loss problem. But watching it is so incredibly entertaining that I don't care at this point. And I have, like, high hopes for it.
Yeah, I mean, judging on what we've seen, I think it's a great show. I think it's not definitely something everyone would enjoy. Similar to The Last of Us, right? Just because it's very dark and gruesome and graphic.
And you really have to be invested of, like, what's going to happen next? Like, you have to be, like, on the edge of your seat. Otherwise,
Yeah, but I think, like, for us, it just is, like, exactly what we need in a TV show. So, awesome stuff. Okay, let's finish the show off, as we always do, with a listener mail question. This week, we put a listener mail question out on Twitter to everyone, which was about Summer Game Fest. So I guess we could have included this back in that segment. But we got a response from our friend Gabe, though. So I thought we'd just shout him out quickly for the Summer Game Fest announcement he would want.
Yeah, so it was the same most realistic and most wanted game, and I guess it's a consolidated plea for help, actually, of just factions, please.
No kidding, right? I think it's so disappointing that it's weird that they delayed it, but they didn't ever have a release date to start with, so can it really be delayed?
I'm concerned it's having some like inner development turmoil issues, but I mean, I trust Naughty Dog, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. So as we always say, delay it, take your time. But man, like an online, like living in the Last of Us kind of world, like imagine just living in Jackson, and you got to just figure it out and see like what's going on. Like it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it sounds horrible, but I'd play it.
And with that, everybody, that's been listener mail, and that's gonna close out the show. So if you want to be cool like Gabe, you can reply to our questions on Twitter if you want to give us a follow, and of course you can ask any other gaming related questions that you would like to cloudcontrol@proton.me. But of course, get in touch with us wherever you like. We appreciate all of your comments and everything as well. So thanks very much. But until next time, everyone, I should say one more thing. We may or may not be watching some of the Summer Game Fest stuff live, doing a reaction like we did with the showcase. So check out our channel and stuff. If we do it, we'll post it there, obviously. If not, this has been Cloud Control, the gaming podcast that's not just good. It's good enough, as you can see by this outro. And we'll see you on the next episode.